The big gap between Supercars rounds in Melbourne and Perth gives us plenty of time to think about the series. Will the Fords keep catching fire? Is this really how they measure centre of gravity? And could F1 driver Valtteri Bottas one day join the sport? Now that last question is certainly the least pressing of the three, but after Bottas recently drove the 2016 Bathurst winning Commodore at the Adelaide Motorsport Festival, I've been going back and forth on the possibility of him racing down under. I think there's reasons for and against us seeing him join Supercars in the future, so let's jump into it and I'll give you my final prediction at the end. Let's kick things off by taking stock of where Bottas is at in his career. So Valtteri has actually been in Formula 1 for 10 years now, racking up 10 victories and helping Mercedes to multiple Constructors' World Championships. In 2022, Merck gave him the boot in favour of George Russell and Bottas moved to Sauber Alfa Romeo. The 22 season started well for Alfa, but since then the team's performance has been slipping and Bottas's rookie teammate Guan Yu Zhou has been gaining an edge on him. Combine that poor run of results with the pending takeover of Sauber by Audi, and you have to wonder what the future holds for Bottas, and could that future be in Supercars? So let's explore the reasons why it could happen, and the first reason I've got written down here is the fact Bottas loves Australia. He's spoken many times about his passion for the Aussie way of life, going as far to grow a mullet and land a personal sponsorship deal with Victoria Bitters, a marketing match made in heaven if you've ever seen one. Add to the equation that he and his Australian girlfriend Tiffany Cromwell spent the majority of the last F1 off-season in the land down under. I think there's a good chance we'll see Bottas arrive in Australia as his retirement destination when he decides to call time on F1. And if Bottas wants to keep racing, Supercars as an Australian series seems like a logical choice for him. The second reason why I can see it happening is the lifestyle. Compared to Formula 1, Supercars would offer a far more relaxed lifestyle for the Finn, and while Supercars still has plenty of its own fan, media and sponsorship commitments, it won't be anywhere near the same level as Valtteri is currently experiencing. Supercars also has a far friendlier schedule in terms of intensity, with roughly half the number of events as Formula 1, and the travel distance are obviously much shorter as well, being a predominantly Australian-based series. So in addition to having more time on his hands to enjoy the more simple things in life, Bottas could also use the Supercars calendar as an opportunity to explore more of the country that he seems to love so much. No matter how much the lifestyle may suit Bottas though, if he went racing in Supercars, he would have to perform. And that brings me to my third reason why I see it working, and that is Valtteri's versatility. While we'll never know for sure, I think Bottas is one of the better placed Formula 1 drivers to transition to a series like Supercars and do well. When I look at the majority of the F1 field, most of them are open wheel specialists, as you would expect, because they need to be. But as a result, I would have serious doubts about the ability for drivers like Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, and even Daniel Ricciardo to jump into an Aussie V8 and perform. But there are other drivers like Fernando Alonso who have shown interest and delivered in other series outside of Formula 1, and Bottas is one of those adaptable drivers. He's driven in multiple rallies, even taking a stage win, and later this year he'll also compete in the Race of Champions. Granted, Supercars is an incredibly different form of motorsport, but of all the current F1 drivers, Bottas certainly appears to be one of the more promising and adaptable drivers to other styles of racing, and potentially continue a successful career here in Australia. And that brings us to the fourth and final reason why I can potentially see this happening, and that is the fact Supercars would bend over backwards to make a drive happen for Valtteri. IndyCar has proven that acquiring ex-F1 talent in the form of Ericsson and Grosjean can attract a lot of international attention to a series, and Supercars is trying to get as many eyeballs as possible on the new Gen 3 formula, and is even hinting at more overseas events in the future. What better way to attract crowds and interest by having someone like Bottas on the grid, especially if he's enjoying himself and going head to head with our local drivers. So assuming Bottas performs well, it could be a feel-good story for him, for Supercars and fans all around the world. But as I like to say, it's not all sunshine and race cars. There are a few reasons why I think we might not see Bottas ever race in supercars. The first reason against is that question of performance. Despite believing that Bottas is one of the more versatile F1 drivers on their grid at the moment, the challenge and uniqueness of Aussie V8s cannot be underestimated. Stick shift, heel and toe, and vastly lower levels of downforce are all factors that Valtteri will have to contend with. Pair that with the fact most of the current supercars drivers have been perfecting those same skills their whole career, Bottas would be facing an incredibly steep learning curve. I'm sure he would be keen to give it a go, but will a supercars team take the risk on him? And would Bottas be willing to take the risk with his own reputation? The most challenging part of all these questions is the fact we will never really know unless Bottas gets in a supercar in a competitive session and has a crack. And that brings us to the second reason against Bottas joining the series down under. That is the tracks. Not only is he going to be trying to learn a new and very tricky car to drive, he's going to be doing it on predominantly circuits he's never raced on before, like Newcastle, Tassie, Perth, Gold Coast, Bathurst, the vast majority of which are very unforgiving. If Bottas did want to ease out of the world of F1, he might consider European-based categories like GT racing that share similar circuits to F1 that he knows, like Spa, Hungary, and Silverstone. On the flip side though, Bottas might be looking for a bit more variety in the circuits he's going to, so these new locations could actually be a draw card for him. So with all that considered, what do I think? Honestly, when Bottas decides to call time on Formula 1, I think it's highly likely we will see him dabble in supercars to some extent. Whether that's a co-drive at an enduro like Bathurst, or a season-long entry, only time will tell, but he has certainly hinted his interest. Because there are quite a few reputational risks attached to this venture for Bottas, I think if he wanted to look at supercars long-term, the smart way to go about it would be to do a few rounds in Super 2 or Super 3 before co-driving at the Enduros at Sandown and Bathurst. By that point, if he did that program for a year, he would have an idea if he enjoys the series enough to pursue a full-time drive, and the teams would have an idea of Bottas's potential. Regardless of how he does it, I would love to see Bottas give supercars a go. I think it would be fantastic for the series' reputation on a global scale, and assuming he performs, I think Bottas would have a whole lot of fun as well. Ultimately, only he knows what his plans are post F1, and be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. But for now, on the topic of supercars and Bottas, I will leave you with some thoughts from the man himself.
Never say never.